To talk more about Abe's economic legacy, I'm joined now by Anthony Chen. He's a former chief economist at JP Chase. Anthony, great to see you. Abe, of course, was named for Abenomics, which was the policies that he implemented to try and reform the Japanese economy, to try and revitalize it. How did he reshape the Japanese economy?
Well, I think that after 2 decades of very stagnant economic growth, he had some great ideas, certainly to pursue more expansionary monetary policy with accommodative fiscal policy and reform. I think that he certainly did his best to do it. I think that perhaps when we look back, we know that that third arrow, namely the reform, fell short a little bit. He certainly did his best to pursue it, to allow and encourage many women that were underutilized in terms of their low labor force participations to enter the labor force and to enter upper management. I think he moved aggressively in that area, but the COVID situation certainly delayed that process, and he didn't complete it. But certainly the ideas were there, and I think if he would have pursued it and perhaps the country would have been more cooperative, I think it would have been transformational for Japan.
Japan, of course, one of the biggest economies in the world. How did he solidify Japan as a global economic power, especially in Asia?
Well, I think he really wanted to have Japan playing a bigger role in Asia, certainly. He was the chief architect behind the Quad concept, which obviously brought into the picture Japan, Australia, India, and as a countervailing force against other countries in Asia. So he certainly was instrumental there. He also had very strong ties with India, both economic and political. And so I think he really put and did his best to put Japan back on the map and make Japan a lot more relevant than it was before he came to power.
You know, some of those reforms that he implemented, I mean, one of them you just talked about a moment ago, boosting women in the workplace. How did that influence Japan's economy?
Well, I think that Japan has suffered for many years due to a shortage of labor, and bringing in women into the labor force certainly solved at least part of that problem. But Abe also encouraged more immigration, which is something that Japan did not do very aggressively before Abe came into power. So in short, he decided to solve the labor shortage, not only with structural reform, but also by encouraging more participants in the labor force. Women were a piece of that. Immigration was also a piece of it. And also boosting productivity, which was also part of the structural reforms.
You know, even when Abenomics was being implemented, there were economists who said that it did not meet expectations. Japan, of course, went into a recession in 2020. Did this cause economists to question the success of his policies?
Well, I think that the COVID situation threw a monkey wrench in many economies, not just Japan, but economies all over the world. And so much of the momentum that was built up was interrupted by the COVID pandemic. There's, of course, a lot of people out there that felt that Japan did not manage COVID very well, but so did many other countries. I don't think the United States managed COVID very well either. So Japan is not the only country that sort of fell into that trap. But again, there were many extenuating circumstances along the way, in addition to the fact that the country was not ready for such aggressive reform. And that third arrow really fell short. He did struggle a bit with that third arrow, namely structural reform. The first two pieces, the first two arrows were a lot smoother, the monetary expansionary policy and, of course, the fiscal policy. But certainly that third arrow was a bit sluggish for Japan and also for Shinzo Abe.
Anthony Chen, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.